Hi everyone, it's Erin Scott here. Welcome to your October 2019 Alchemy Scope. Let's take a look at your growth processes, your natural growth processes for this Libra new moon cycle, which is correlating with our month of October, through three different modalities: an art channeling, a divinatory message, and an analysis of your astrological cycle. Okay, Aries, so let's take a look at the art channeling that came through for you for October. You can see I'm writing out your name. Now, your name started off different than any of the others, right? We have this verticalization of your name, Aries written out, north to south. And you can see there's like a box developing here. And now there's like a portal or an entrance. So this is becoming essentially like a front door, like an entrance into this residence. There's a chimney developing at the top here, kind of top left side of the house. And you have these two windows now emerging on either side of the door. And this is angled, right? So we have this angled, very simple box house that's emerging with this open portal, an open door, two windows and a chimney. And now you can see the left side window is becoming blue. The right side window is becoming green. We're going to go through this process of the speeded up video, and then we're going to analyze all of this stuff, okay? So we have this kind of pathway that's emerging from the door. It's red. You can see that there's kind of several feet out from this house, there's a line, and then after that line, the path gets filled in red. And now there's this vertical line coming up through Aries, and now like a cross essentially developing through the A. Very interesting. This was a very interesting process to go into this for you. We have these kind of loops happening. We have these four kind of arcs, loop, 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 loop. It's some sort of movement. And now you can see there's like a needle. I drew a needle and with a thread that is connecting these four arcs or these four loops, these four movements, etc. Let's see what else is coming out here. So there's a face emerging, starting with eyes and a nose. You can see it's becoming a dog face. So we have a large dog face in this upper right-hand quadrant of this drawing. Big ears, friendly eyes, and also big nose. There was something about the nose that kept wanting to be emphasized. So we'll talk about that. And you can see that horizontal line going through the A is now extending beyond the forehead of the dog, and it's extending back to the house. Completely fascinating. I haven't analyzed this yet, by the way. We're doing it live as I'm recording this audio for you. When I do the channelings, we just go into the process, okay? So now let's take a look at this stilled image, Aries, and we'll go step by step, okay? We're going to start with your name. So when I wrote out your name, Aries, it was vertical, starting with the A-R-I-E-S, vertical, top to bottom. Different. It hasn't happened yet with these art scopes. So fascinating. Now, what does that indicate? Right off the bat, it indicates some sort of vertical movement or rising up. Even though we started with the A moving down the page, there's some sort of standing upright, a new level of confidence, a new level of speaking your voice, something where you are standing your ground. Again, this is an upright posture. It's vertical. So it indicates strength and kind of resolution, a determination, some sort of a confidence that's coming out. Now, the A of Aries is kind of arced, okay? It's not like a pointed A. It's a looped A. Arced A. And the interesting thing is the door to the house also is kind of this arced entrance, right? It's not a box or a square or a rectangular door. It's this arced entrance, rounded top, okay? So for me, there was a resonance there immediately. Right after I saw the door, there was the connection to the A. Now, in the Pythagorean alphabet, the A represents number 1. 1 is, in fact, the first house of the zodiac wheel, the first sign of the zodiac wheel, which of course is Aries. 1 is inspiration, innovation, energy, new beginnings. It's a new story. In fact, Aries begins a whole cycle of a human evolutionary process. That's what 1 is. That's what Aries is. So there's something here about the 1 and the Aries energy that is just highly emphasized, especially Aries with all of the red, because of course Mars is your ruling planet. And this is the god of conflict, the god of war. This is a fire planet, a fire sign, Aries. So that fiery Mars energy is all over this page. With that verticalization of your name, with the arc representing the door, which we're going to talk about next, but with the A representing number 1, and with indeed your sign representing number 1, there's a lot of initiation energy and new beginning energy that is happening. There's a lot of vital life force energy that's being activated. Now, the second thing that came was the house, all right? The house is skewed. The house is on an angle. House or a home, a structure such as this, would represent stability, foundation, a place where you can call home, a place where you can connect and feel grounded and protected and safe and nurtured. That's home. So for you this month in October, the home is skewed. You might not feel completely on both of your feet. You might not feel completely secure or grounded. In fact, what I get is that there's a bit of fear arising for some of you. We're talking about a generalized narrative for the archetype of Aries, natural unfolding cycle for the archetypal Aries narrative for the month of October 2019, okay? And based on the Libra new moon cycle. All of this is the natural growth process. But you are all, each of you listening to my voice, you're all at different levels of conscious awareness. And in addition, you all have a distinct blueprint that is going to have very specific kind of tie-ins and manifestations about how this stuff is activating. For a lot of you, though, I do get that there's an underpinning sense of fear about a skewed foundation. You don't quite feel safe. You don't quite feel secure. You might have a lot of response to that, emotional response, anger, rage, or even outright fear. Always underneath anger, rage issues is fear, okay? So here I think that there's a fear of either you're losing your foundations, you don't feel safe and secure at the house or the home or the property, you don't feel secure for your future, and there might be some indications that you're thinking about that kind of thing. But we haven't finished analyzing it. So when the house emerged, it's skewed, but it has the door. The first thing that came through Aries is this door. The door is open and it's leading to a dark interior, okay? Now, it's curved. First of all, the door is open. There's no door. This is leading open into the house. So it indicates that there's an openness and a lack of security. Again, there's no door. So you're vulnerable. You're open to externalized processes. You're open and vulnerable to externalized circumstances, people, situations, conversations, etc. Does that make sense? So there's no door. So you're not protected. Thus, the skewed house. So, and it's leading into a dark interior. For me, that says that in your shadowed mind, there's a lot of activation for the Aries archetype this month of October. Now, going into the astrological narratives playing out for this month, which we're going to talk more about it later in this segment, in this video. Indeed, the month of October in general, for all of us, has a lot of intensified activations. So it's not surprising that this stuff is coming up. But for you, this door is open, it's vulnerable, it's not protected, it's not boundaried, okay? There's no boundary between you and the externalized world. And it's leading into a dark interior. This is telling me that your internalized subconscious mind is a bit running the show this month. And inherently with that, there's a growth edge of becoming awakened, aware to your own story, to your own narratives, to your own wound sets, to your own patterning, because there's stuff to see here. Now, there's another thing here that says that there's an isolation narrative. Why? Well, because the house is small and it's open and it's dark inside. And in addition to that, we have this boundary that you're creating, Aries. Do you see the red line? There's a path coming out from the door, and then there's this very thick red line that crosses it about, let's say, several feet out in front of that house. And then there's red coming out on the path from that point of boundary. What does that mean? Red indicates energy, movement, action. Red indicates anger, conflict, aggression. It's almost like you're pushing out a boundary, a conscious boundary, an energetic boundary. Actually, that's what it is, because the path from that line to the front door is clear, which indicates your consciousness. So what I get, Aries, for you is that you are creating an energetic boundary because physically you don't feel contained or safe. There's something for Aries coming up this month that has to do with safety and security of your physical material reality. And indeed, because you feel open and vulnerable physically, I feel that you are, which by the way is always sourced in the unconscious mind, but that's another story that we can go into another time. But the perception of your physical reality being not grounded can be adjusted by your deep unconscious narrative that lives within. Thus, the door open to the blackness within. But the point is this: you are creating an energetic boundary. So several feet out in front of your quote-unquote house, which indeed can refer to the physical structure of your own vehicle, your own body, and by the way, your own mind. Like, for example, Betty Bethards, who wrote this fantastic book called The Dream Book many, many moons ago, she indeed dreams of homes, and rooms and homes are really the mind and rooms within the mind. So this could easily be the skewed mind with regards to shadow stuff and fear about lack of security. Because of that, you're creating an energetic boundary out in front of you that people are picking up on. And indeed, out in front of that energetic boundary, there's that red path. So people might be experiencing you, and you are also experiencing people outside of yourself as aggressive, conflict-oriented, blaming, shaming, negative. So there's something here where you have a need to protect yourself this month because of a lot of minutia that's going on in your reality, in your context, at your workplace, in your neighborhood, in your community, at your home base with family members, etc. So I think you are self-protecting, and you do feel a little skewed because the world at large, at the external that you're perceiving, is chaotic. It's angry, it's conflict-oriented. There's a lot of war and issue at play here that you're just not wanting to, or don't have the mental capacity or even the emotional capacity to deal with this stuff. So there is a bit of self-protection, but you are feeling skewed and off balance. So thus, the growth edge inherently with the house and the path and the boundaries here and the open door is that you are to become disciplined and self-aware and conscientious about creating your own mental balance. Because here you feel off balance. So it's your responsibility to feel balanced. It's not the world's responsibility to help you feel balanced. That's not the world's responsibility. That's not the person's responsibility outside of you, okay? Now, that being said, you also have two windows. One is blue, one is green. Could this be your eyes, how you're perceiving life through the inside of that house, how you're seeing it? Is that the lens of your perspective this month? It could be. The left window is blue, indicating communication. It's a small window. The green is also a small window, and that's really the heart chakra, the fourth chakra there. So issues of communication and love, I think for you this month, are feeling, or you're experiencing them as quite limited. So communications might be limited, contained, formal. What's the word that I'm looking for there? Let me see, Aries. There's a word that's wanting to come with that. Contained, formal, limited, and reduced. You know, there's something about communications that are coming out from you and that are coming to you that are just coming through a small portal. So they're not prevalent, or they're not abundant, or they're not maybe very loving. That's the other thing. So with the green window being kind of also contained, right? There's a containment within that window frame. And you're looking out the house, out at the world through that small window. So how you are showing love and affection this month might be quite limited, contained, made more formal, more polite. There's not quite the openness and the abundance of it. It's not flowing readily. It's contained. And you're only maybe communicating and issuing your love and affection in your life this month as needed. It's almost like on an as needed basis, Aries. Now, there is a chimney to this house. Chimney indicates a fireplace. So there is fire within. Okay, there's a fire within, and what I see here is that this is happening on the left side of the house, right? So the chimney is more on the left side of the house with the blue window. What I get here is that there is a fire inside that subconscious mind, and the communications that are, let's say, limited in their scope. You might be a lot more quiet this month, a lot more internal, maybe more meditation, more quiet time, rest even, okay? For those of you that also have a lot of Gemini in your narrative, in your natal blueprint, by the way, for those who are not aware of their blueprint, the details in depth, your patterns that are encoded, the relationship dynamics that are encoded, the mastery arcs that are encoded, okay? Be in touch. You can see the links below. It's a foundational tool. Everybody needs to have an in-depth natal analysis. But for you, what I see with this chimney is inside your psyche, inside your mind, there is a fire burning, and it's more on the side of the left window, which means that your communications are simply more governed by first chakra stuff, right? The fire can indicate first chakra, the red chakra. This is survival issues. Indeed, survival issues are at play here for a lot of you, okay? Now, the other thing that I want to say that's quite evident here is that the pathway with that boundary coming out looks a bit like a cross, okay? And by the way, it almost looks like the handle of a sword. Now, a sword came up last month, and for one of the signs, I think it was Capricorn, for last month, for September. There's something about this particular drawing that might indicate the handle of a sword. And it wouldn't be too surprising with the red coming up and out from that boundary point. So it's almost like you're holding the sword outward. There's a defensiveness here. Energetically, people get that from you too. They might not want to come too close because there is an energetic at play for you that is defensive and even aggressive. And that's how you are interpreting people coming at you. So thus you feel the defensiveness. As within, so without, Aries. It's all a feedback loop, okay? So it's all you, in other words. But you're feeling defensive of people, and people are feeling defensive of you, perhaps. Perhaps that's coming up for some of you this month. Now, this also looks like a cross. And if you look at the other end of that boundary line, it goes up through Aries, right up through the name Aries. So we have the vertical red line through Aries, and then we have a horizontal line right through that A. There's a cross shown here. For a lot of you, you feel it's almost like, number one, the cross that we all know, right? Indicating religious dogma or a dogmatic truth. So for some of you, through the protection of religion or through the protection of the Bible, there's fear activated for you, and you're putting your fingers up almost to hush away or usher away some sort of a vampire narrative or an evil being narrative. What I get here is you're using some mental dogma, could be philosophical dogma or even religious dogma, to protect yourself and to not deal with what you deem as the evil other Aries. This is heavy. This is big. This is probably, you're the last one I'm recording this month, and this is probably the heaviest one. Okay? But let's be honest and truthful about what's coming up. This is just the drawing. So we're looking at what's showing up here. Why is this stuff showing up? Okay? What came after that were, from that point where the boundary becomes the cross through the A of Aries, we also have these 1, 2, 3, 4 arced loops. Okay? Now for me, it's red, number one. So red is indicating action and movement. It's also indicating some sort of aggressive play, some action, some externalized action happening. So here we have boom, 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 boom. Maybe that's reaction. This could be because it was a very quick loop, 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 loop. It's almost something's reverberating. There's an echo here. There's a reaction here. There's something happens, there's a reaction. Something happens, reaction. Boom, boom. Do you understand? So there's something kind of that's a quick reactivity, which by the way is first chakra, which by the way is Mars. Mars does represent kind of primal reaction, primal behavior. It's the essence of our primal life force energy, Mars. But it is from that kind of base aspect of the chakra system, first and second chakra, where anger lives and can arise. And it comes from fear that we will die, fear that we cannot survive, etc. So we're talking about a lot of core deep issues here. It is based in the deep shadowed mind of your mind, the shadowed psyche of your mind here, okay, because of the open door darkness within the house and limited communications in out, limited affection and love coming in and out. There is a fire within the mind. So something here about your base essence narrative, story, and soul structure, and the fire that lives there, the anger patterns that might arise, the reactivity and behavior patterns that arise with your relationships, etc. And by the way, with everything, with family, with career, with your goal setting, with your relationship with God, with spirit, that's all in your natal blueprint. But the point here is that there's a lot of activity here. There is a sense of skewed foundations that can be causing some fear for some of you. And there is some reaction with those loops. That's what I get. And for some of you too, maybe this is not reaction. For some of you, maybe this is about a lot of action or a lot of repercussion. So for example, for the boundary that you're creating, there could be a lot of repercussion happening, boom, 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 with different people in your reality. Now, ultimately, we have a needle and a thread showing up here. The needle is showing up at the base of the cross and at the side of this boundary and also at the beginning portion of these 4 arcs. Needle and thread. Needle and thread is sewing something together. Let me think about this, Aries. Sewing something together, sewing these loops together, sewing reactions together, connecting reactions. It might be that, because the thing is, the needle and the thread came toward the end of the drawing here. What that could indicate is that toward the end, maybe post full moon, so after the 13th of October, it could be that at the end couple weeks of October, or even the last week of October, that you start to connect the dots, or you start to link together how all of these different reaction patterns that you've exhibited this month, or that people have exhibited with you, or both, because it's a little bit of both, and that you're going to understand how they're all linked, and you're going to start to sew it together. You're going to start to maybe connect the dots here. I think that's what that's talking about, that those loops are maybe different reactions, different patterns, different situations that occur over October, where at the end of the month, you're able to understand how they're all sourced in the same narrative. They're all sourced in the same wound story. Okay? All right, beauties. Now, there's a dog that emerged, a big dog. And the big dog is showing up on this right side of the paper here. Up at the top, it's large. And it was essentially the last thing that came through. It was either the needle and thread or the dog that was the very last thing. But the dog is indicating socialization, loyalty, friendship, play. There's something here about kind of loving acceptance, joy, play, and connecting with others. There's definitely the social component here to dog, okay? And a loyalty. There's something here about loyalty. Now, for some of you, the cross, the horizontal axis of that cross that goes through the A of Aries, it goes right through the forehead of the dog. And the forehead of the dog, this is indicating, sixth chakra. It's indicating certainly the brain, the mind. For me, it's indicating the left brain, the more analytic brain, the one that really looks at proof and material reality, and it wants to analyze the details of something specific that's being observed, and many other things. But that's what I'm picking up here, that this cross, some sort of a dogma, ends up bleeding into your social contacts, those who you were loyal to. What I also get here, because the eyes of the dog to me look a little bit sad, and it looks a bit, now, a lot of you are not going to like this recording, because listen, this is what I'm getting with the eyes of the dog. The dog might feel a little victimized here, okay? So for you, at the end of the month, that cross is extending into the brain of the dog. And what I get is that some dogma about this is truth, this is the way life is supposed to be, is bleeding into your social network or the social dynamics that you have, either the friendships that you have, or it's bleeding into your mind as you contemplate social connections, meaning that you have some position about people aren't safe, I'm not safe with people, this is my truth, I'm going to be my own player here. Aries is upright. It's all about me. For Aries this month, there's a lot of defensiveness here. And that defensiveness, that cross, that dogma of the defensiveness is bleeding into the mind of the dog, who is the loyal friend and companion. This could be impacting your relationships, impacting your friendships this month. Clearly, this is the energetic growth cycle for you this month. This is not what will happen and what you have no control over. This is the growth. You are to mature this narrative. If you, Aries, are finding that this is erupting and evolving for you this month, if you find that some of these narratives are coming to life for you this month, excellent. See what is happening. Understand the reactivity. There's work to be done here. You are to participate in your evolutionary journey. You are not the recipient of the journey. You are a co-participant to life. Now, if you want to ride this wave optimally, because this simply is part of your natural growth and evolutionary process, then you must own the shadows, the patterns, and the stories, and get what it is that you are here to up-level, grow, mature, and evolve. Period. That's your freedom. That's when you get to the other side. Okay? So now, you know what? Let's take a look, Aries, for what came forward for you. And I need to look, I didn't pull it up already. Let me pull up my book. You're receiving Party Zone for your growth edge this month. Now, this could not be more perfect, Party Zone, okay? Let me pull this up quickly. Here we go. Now, Party Zone is speaking directly to the message that came through with the art. Party Zone, the growth edge for you is be sociable. So again, if there is a lot of self-protective defense mechanisms at play because of an inner fear about being vulnerable and not safe with people, you feel that people are not safe, you feel that people are cruel or mean or judge you or shame you. If you're having those narratives occur for you, there's a bigger story there that you're needing to understand, but also that narrative of the artwork is really a lot about isolation as well, right? And so the Party Zone, be sociable, is indeed the growth edge. This is about making more contact, right? Now, with the dog showing up, it might be that at the end of October, you do reach out. You're automatically moving into a place of more social ability, more social contact. Okay, now this is your reflection for the month, Aries. Humans are social beings by nature. Nothing is truly meaningful until it is shared. Imagine that you just had the best day of your life. You landed the perfect job. You made all the lights to and from your interview. You found the best restaurant afterward to celebrate. How much less meaningful would these events in your life be if you didn't have someone to tell about them? Life is meant to be shared. Think of a friend that you haven't spoken with for a while. Why not call them up or get together? Plan a party or a fun night out on the town. It is therapeutic for all of us to spend time with people that we care about. Indeed, so this is something for you to contemplate this month, Aries. It is something that is wanting to be evolved and matured through you during this cycle of October 2019. All right, beauties? Now, let's take a look at your astrology. The chart we're looking at here is the Libra new moon that we had at the end of September, which inherently, by its nature, imbues the cycle and the energetics of growth for this month of October. So if we look at this, indeed, we're showing the natural zodiac wheel with Aries at the ascendant point, and indeed, this is your chart. So what we're looking at here is this new moon happening, or the new moon that happened in Libra at 5 degrees 20 minutes Libra, is imbuing your narrative for this month of October. Well, this new moon, the sun and moon conjunct at 5 degrees Libra, happened in your 7th house of relationships. And indeed, there is a new iteration, Aries, of you happening with regards to relationships. Number one, because it's the sun moon in Libra. But number two, because it's the sun, moon, in the 7th house. For you, they're aligned. The natural archetypal chart for Aries, 7th house Libra, is aligned for you. And indeed, 7th house is relationships, Libra is relationships, but it's also peace, harmony, dynamic equilibrium, balance, fairness, justice between you and the other person. So there's a feedback loop and a two-way street that is indicated. But there is indeed a new semi-challenging iteration as you begin a new way of communicating with people. There's new patterns of communicating that you're navigating now. Specifically, too, because we have this 5-degree sun and moon Aries. And 5 is the number of change, movement, chaos, and indeed freedom. So there's a certain kind of independence of nature, of who you are and how you stand with the other in the relationship. Okay? So this is big. It's a big month for you when it comes to relationships and relationship dynamics. In addition to that, Mercury and Venus were in Libra at this point of the new moon in your 7th house. So a lot of your thoughts and what you are valuing this month is all about relationships. But at the same time, those planets are squaring the stellium that we have in Capricorn, which is significant because for you, your 7th house is squaring your 10th house of aspiration, public expression, and indeed career. So Capricorn 10th house with that South Node and Saturn and Pluto, there's a lot of transmutation happening in your career inherently, okay, during these last many years and continuing for a little while here. But for you, with all of this stellium of planet in Libra, indeed, there's a lot of challenging, frictional, squared energy between relationships and how you show up in the greater world, 10th house. And also for a lot of you, specifically, there are going to be challenges with work relationships happening. Indeed, when we had this Libra new moon, we had Saturn and South Node essentially exactly conjunct. And this is a very challenging aspect, and it is flavoring the entirety of October. So South Node Saturn conjunction is rigid past patterns, a rigid tie to the need to control. For you, you have this need to control with how you show up with your work, how you show up with your career, how you show up in the workplace, how you show up with bosses. Now, very specifically for a lot of you, because you have a 5-degree sun moon in the 7th house of relationships squaring this Saturn South Node Capricorn 10th, it indicates that you will experience bosses, father figures, or the patriarchy in general really being rigid or challenging or even aggressive and controlling with regards to who you are and how you operate. And for a lot of you, how you operate in a desire to achieve harmony and balance in this world. So for example, you might be really coming up against brick walls with people. Specifically in let's say society at large, the patriarchy at large, or with bosses or father figures, or even with people just at your workplace, in your career. So that's pretty intense, right? In addition to that, you and all of us are experiencing this sun moon at 5 degrees Libra quincunxing exactly a 5-degree Uranus. Now for you, Uranus is in your archetypal 2nd house in Taurus. And both of these signs are ruled by Venus, right? Libra is ruled by Venus. Taurus is ruled by Venus. There's a quincunx about this new identity emerging, 5-degree sun moon, outer self, inner self merged and changing in how it relates to people, quincunxing this Uranus in the 2nd house of money, but also the 2nd house of meeting your basic essential needs, right? So this feeds directly into the artwork that came through for you, because indeed, Uranus in the 2nd house does naturally indicate challenges or changing conditions when it comes to your safety and security, your money, your income, your food, your shelter. 2nd house. Okay. By the way, 2nd house, importantly, is your sense of values and your sense of self-value. 2nd house is how you love and value the self, thus what you love and value in order to survive in this world and meet your basic essential needs. And by the way, 2nd house is also about going beyond meeting the basic needs, moving into abundance. So what we have here is this exact quincunx of 5-degree sun moon quincunxing your 5-degree Uranus in the area of value and essential needs. Thus the skewed house and the art. Indeed, there is something here where You are maybe feeling a little wobbly and you don't feel like you're quite secure. And in the meantime, relationships are at issue for you. So you might feel a bit lost. Like, who can I turn to if I don't feel I'm able to care for myself? And I'm becoming a new person. I'm wanting my freedom and independence and confidence as an individual as I have my relationships with the husband, the partner, the wife, the spouse, or the good friend, or the boss, or the employee, or the client. Whoever the one-on-one relationship is for you, that's where you're developing a new sense of self. But you feel a bit wobbly. And indeed, it kind of is connected to Venusian issues of money, finances, and meeting your basic essential needs. For a lot of you, because of the square formations to that Pluto, Saturn, South Node in Capricorn, this is huge, Aries, because it does indicate that a lot of you feel a need to leave your current workplace. You're feeling constraint and restriction and a need for new freedom and joy and harmony in your life. And you want to feel more safe and secure as well. By the way, all of us are going through that simply because of the nodal axis. So, for example, the South Node in Capricorn, the North Node in Cancer, this is a redistribution of where we find our security. So inherently, all of us are going through a major process of where do we feel secure and where do we really access that? So it's a huge narrative, right? So you're definitely going through it, and you are feeling a lot of energetics with your career. For those of you with a career or with a long-term job, or even as you relate to society as a whole, you're feeling some challenge there because you're needing things to change. Pluto is asking for it to be transmutated and up-leveled, you know. So yeah, there's a lot of energetics there, Aries. Let's see what else I wanted to talk about. The other thing is that the Sun Moon in Libra in the 7th house, you're becoming the new person as you relate to people, is opposed to Chiron, which is, still in your 1st house. So yes, there's some vulnerability and insecurity and sense of self-doubt and even a sense of impotence. Like, how is my energy being received? How is my energy, my vital life force, my essence? This is part of the narrative for Aries now and for the next many years. How is my fire, my passion, my energy, my drive, my actions, my behavior? How does that matter to others? That's one of the narratives for you playing out, Aries. That Sun Moon at 5 degrees opposed 3 degrees Chiron in your 1st house. How do people value me? How do they see me? How do my actions matter? And so that's actually a sub-layer to this narrative that's going on. And you can go back to that art channeling and actually reinterpret it through that secondary lens, right? Now, the other thing that's activated for you is we still have, as we started this month, this cycle of October, Mars was in Virgo, still in your 6th house of day-to-day work, opposing Neptune in the 12th, and both of those squaring Jupiter in the 9th house for you. So there is this desire to expand yourself, to expand your consciousness, to expand your understandings, your learnings, your education. It's connected to deep spiritual truths. A lot of you, too, are very connected to, which, by the way, requires discernment, okay? But this Neptune in the 12th house in Pisces, which, can definitely connect you to the etheric, can connect you to source. It can connect you to your own soul structure and your own internalized narratives, definitely. And because of the square to Jupiter in the 9th house, man, this can look like a lot of illusion and delusion that is in this very kind of harsh relationship with, and this is truth, this is my dogma. That's that Jupiter in Sagittarius 9th house for the archetypal Aries narrative. So there's a lot of kind of insistence of this is truth. Your truth is wrong, my truth is right. And indeed, because of this T-square down to Mars, Virgo 6th house, Indeed. There can be a lot of kind of almost anal retentive energy, detailed energy, and work and effort that you're putting into convincing others of your truth, convincing others of your spiritual perception. Okay? So this is all to be seen correctly here. See it clearly, be discerning. It's all good. This is part of your natural process. And there's going to be benefic things that emerge that are really going to feed and grow you over your next chapter, over these coming weeks and years, and indeed the rest of your life. This is a layered process of growth happening now. But inherently there's discernment that's necessary. There's always discernment and growth and maturity and clear seeing that's called for whatever process we're in. So I'm going to leave it there. There's going to be more coming for November. For those ready, willing, and able to understand your own natal chart blueprint, your own encoding, your story, why you're here, what your narratives are, what your patterns are, what the wounds are, and what they're about, what they're tied to, and what your mastery arcs are, what your skill sets, what your naturally encoded career is, right? So there's an in-depth natal analysis that you can order. There's a career analysis that you can order, etc. There's also the 2020 navigations. The upcoming cycle's massive. So for those understanding the gravity of this upcoming cycle, I invite you to get a natal, but ultimately to tap into understanding your 2020 organic and naturally evolving growth processes, which are going to be intensified next year, okay? All right, Aries, I send you so much love, and I'll talk to you next month. Bye-bye.